Past life versus parallel life. Now, here's an interesting thing. Have you ever noticed that so many people have the past life that they were Cleopatra? It's a very common thing. People go into their past lives and they like, oh, I found out that I'm Cleopatra. They go to a psychic and it's like, oh, you were Cleopatra. And everyone's like, I was Marilyn Monroe. I was Cleopatra. I was these different archetypes that exist within the reality. Now, there's a couple different things that may be actually going on here. Now, in that of Dolores Cannon's books, which are all about past life, QHHT hypnotherapy, which QHHT stands for Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. Now, what happens is Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique is a technique where thousands of people all over the world have been put into this deep level of past life regression. And through thousands of people all over the world, there are many transcripts of this dialogue where what happens is someone higher self comes through. It's regular people being in this like past life regression, and information comes through about the soul. Information comes through about why you incarnated, why you chose your parents, even if you don't have the great relationship with your parents, even if you experienced a lot of trauma. What were the themes you came to experience in your life? Understanding past life themes that may be energetically within your field that you came to clear. Understanding why you're here during this time of transformation on the planet. These are all questions that would be asked to thousands of people all over the world, none of which really knew each other. It's not like that everyone's like, when you get to this deep level of hypnosis, just say that you're an infinite spiritual being and all this stuff. It's more so just coming through. And Dolores Cannon passed away a while ago, but she was around for many years, like 30, 40 years doing this past life, this QHHT therapy. And there are many people that are certified in this process. And one of the things that she mentions, she doesn't even mention it, by the way. It's she notices patterns within thousands of people's hypnosis recordings, and then it's transcribed, and that's what her 17 or 19 books are. My best friend Victor is also certified in QHHT, and he does these like live workshops where many people can go into their own past lives to get information to bring it back, and then also recognize that that is that past incarnation that is actually a parallel life that already exists. But people have profound experiences with the information they learn, and then it allows them to heal, and then also it may have a healing effect on that past life version of themselves that exists right now. Now, one thing that we're doing on August 11th, 12th, and 13th is we are in Los Angeles, California. It's a 3-day transformational experience. And on the first day, there's gonna be a session at the end of the day that is a QHHT session where Victor's gonna come in and do a mass past life regression to connect to that, to heal it. People have profound experiences when they do that. And if you want to join in person or virtual, you can join from anywhere in the world, you can click the link below, join. Now is the time. It's going to be extremely powerful 3-day transformation. There'll be replays if you can't make it live, but that session will be there on the first day, and it's something that I am super excited to see people's experience with. Now, here's one thing that I think you'll find interesting. Sometimes what happens is it's not necessarily a past life that you have. It is that of something that is called an imprint. Now, an imprint is where in a past life, it's not that that was necessarily who you were, that people are like, I was Cleopatra. It's not that you were Cleopatra. It could have been that you took the energetic imprint from Cleopatra's life as a soul and you downloaded that into your consciousness so that when you came into this life, you had a pattern within your consciousness to draw upon information of, so that you could have similar lessons, similar learning, similar energies that you learn. So think about that. There's a little bit of a difference here, and what we really get to do is to let go of needing to really connect to the past lives and understanding that was me from a past life. This person was me from a past life. And instead, it may just be an energy pattern or an archetype that you are picking up on. Now, remember this. At the deepest levels of consciousness, you are an infinite spiritual being, having a temporary human experience, and you are connected to everyone else anyways. So when you say, that was my past life, it's like that past life exists within the collective consciousness because we're all one, but your past life, maybe from a certain perspective of an oversoul, where we have different versions of us incarnated into different times of the timeline. But you are you in this life. It's important to also remember that, because otherwise people get sometimes lost down the rabbit hole of who was I? They're trying so hard to figure out who their past life was, what their themes in their past life was, to understand who they are now. But sometimes they get lost in that and they forget why they're here right now, and they haven't completely embraced the human experience. Now, there's nothing wrong though with learning information from past lives. I think it can be very powerful. I'm just saying don't get caught in the trap. Now, when people also, it's funny because Bashar talks a lot about that of past lives, and anytime people ask about past lives, it's so funny because he has to correct them like a million times. It was a parallel incarnation. It is a parallel incarnation that exists right now. And as you are getting information from them to learn more about yourself, they may be pulling information from you. And as you change in this moment right now, that may energetically change them as well, because you're connected. You're connected to the same oversoul. Now, back when I first learned about this, I want to share a couple different little stories from my own life on this. I remember when I was first getting on YouTube, I went to this psychic lady who's clairvoyant, and she was telling me about a couple of my past lives. And this was right before I was going through the theme of stepping out on YouTube, of like creating content, of putting myself out there. And she said, I want you to know that in past lives, you were killed for the information you would share with people. There were times in past lives where you would share information that you thought would help people, and the government, the belief systems, the religions, they didn't like that. So you were either killed or something happened to you. She said one time, I have like this birthmark somewhere on my chest or something, and she said, do you have a birthmark over here? She said that comes from a life, like that's the representation of a life where you were like thrown into like a lion's den and killed by a lion. And I was like, oh, it's pretty badass. Okay, cool. But when I heard that, I was like, interesting. And then there were like these different storylines of past lives she was explaining that I recognized also represented the theme I was going through, which was putting myself out there and the fear around putting myself out there. Were they really past lives? Well, no. First off, they were probably parallel incarnations of energies that I was currently working through. It could have just been a symbol or a metaphor for me to learn from like what the themes I'm going through in my life are. I found it helpful. But the message was from that reading, like you don't need to be afraid of sharing. There's a fear that you have around sharing this information in the world because of what's happened in the past. You don't have to be afraid of that anymore. In this life, you're meant to express what you're doing. It's going to help people and stuff like that. And then I eventually made videos, and here I am. However, I remember one point, my mom, she was in a relationship with a guy she was married to, and she was in a relationship with him for about 2 years. And towards the end, when the divorce was starting to happen, there were like problems between them. And at one point, he just like kind of packed up some of his stuff and dipped out without saying anything. And that was very triggering for my mom. Then my mom talked to somebody of a friend of ours that was actually a clairvoyant. And he said, oh my God, oh my God. He said, in past lives, you were in a village with him, and he abandoned you in a village and just left. And then it was like, she was like, oh wow, it was very interesting, right? So in this life, they're going through divorce, things were getting kind of like, it was like before the divorce, but things were getting challenging. He just like didn't know what to do, so he just dipped out. And in a past life, he was in a village and he abandoned you in the village. Now, my message about this is that my mom, in the state she was in, was probably pulling from a past life where maybe that happened, because there's a lot of also realities that exist within the infinite collective consciousness, but that was also because of the theme she was in. Based on the theme you are in, you may be attracting a reading within your field of past lives that are going through the same theme. So she may now have a reading that is completely different, where they don't even pick up on that past life at all. It's just a theme she's going through. So when you go through, some people may be in low states and they may hear someone say something about a past life and it was just so disempowering. It could also just be the state you were in that's also connecting to parallel incarnations or parallel energy where it's similar themes. This expands the scope of awareness, because we have such a desire to know about the past. We want to know about the future. And the challenge is the past and the future exist right now. And there are an infinite parallel realities on either side. So when we look to the past and we say, oh, that was me in a past life, that version of you, this is a timeline right here. That version of you exists right now. And in meditation, what you could do is you can connect to the theme of whatever that is to learn things, or you can also look at your own life and see that within your own life, there's certain themes that you're experiencing that also probably relate to your own life. I was told something interesting in a past life. I don't know why I feel guided to share this, because it is kind of personal. I don't know if this is true or not, but of course there are an infinite number of parallel realities, so maybe somehow it is. But it involves all of you, so I thought maybe I would share this. I went to Tulum. There's also past lives where we may have had in different places. I feel a calling to many different places on the planet that apparently I have a lot of past life connection to. Like when you go to this place, you will feel it. There are certain places I do go that I do feel. When I go to Tulum, Mexico, I feel that. I love going there. When I go to Costa Rica, I feel a connection to Costa Rica. Because of what I do for a living, I meet a lot of like pretty cool people that do cool things and like very esoteric, interesting things. But I've been told by many people like I need to go to Turkey because there's some past life connection I have to Turkey. And I'm like, okay, there's also the Middle East in certain parts. One of them though, one time when I went to Tulum, I was having very vivid dreams. I felt a very deep past life connection there. And it was funny because in 2012, I went through this ungrounded phase where I was like, the Mayan calendar, 2012, we're going to ascend into a higher reality. And there was this big buy-in there. But also when I went to Tulum, I felt this such deep loving connection to Mayans and my past and what I believe to be parallel incarnations in the Mayan civilization, I guess you could say. Past life, but parallel for, the correct terminology. One thing I was told by someone that I thought was very interested, and then I felt into, and it may or may not be true, but something that at least was a good symbol for me and what I'm doing in the world, was that in a past life, you had a life in the Mayan civilization, and there was something that you did when you were leading people in some certain way. And of course, maybe I'm a leader in this life, so maybe I'm connecting to a leader in that life. It's like as you step into different levels of your power, maybe there's like different reflections. I'm sure there were past lives where I was slaves. I was a slave. I'm sure there was past life where there are different energy modalities. So I'm not saying that every past life I have, I was someone very important, or that this life I'm sharing with you isn't just an imprint. But basically what I was shown is that in a past life, in this Mayan civilization, there was some decision that I made that wasn't the most I thought was the best decision, but it actually impacted a lot of people. And this decision that I made, there was a certain guilt that came with that. And part of my journey in this life now is a lot of the people that follow me may somehow remember me from that life or within the collective consciousness. But the goal is that I'm trying to undo the negative karma that I created from some bad choice that I made that I thought was good. And in this life, it's like one of the reasons I was told I have a big audience is because I'm in a way balancing out that negative karma. I have a big audience because it's like I want to add so much good to the world to undo that one past life parallel incarnation in the Mayan civilization where something bad happened, even though I thought and I had good intentions. It was like there's like some reverberation of energy that I'm trying to balance out subconsciously. I'm not aware of this at all, except for me telling you about it now. And there's something about it that does resonate. I've always felt like it's interesting just how quickly my audience has grown. And I've always felt like there is, not that it's like I'm trying to undo negative karma, but I've always had this extreme desire to like add as much value as I can in the collective consciousness. I do believe there's a consciousness shift happening in the planet. If you study the Dolores Cannon material, that talks a lot about QHHT and talks about thousands of people all in this deep level of hypnosis that have said so many times, we came here to be a part of the shift in consciousness. This is the life where it's all happening, where we are collectively shifting to a higher level of consciousness. We came here to do this. It's so empowering. I really believe we came here for this. I believe if you're here right now, then there's a part of you that probably feels deep down that you are here to elevate your own level of consciousness, to become a more aware, expanded version of yourself, to really embody a bold version of you. Most people, I believe, that watch my content are on the leading edge of consciousness. There are billions of people still asleep on the planet. This is the time of more and more people waking up every day. This is a time of us becoming more aware of who you are. And it's not a coincidence that you've watched this video this far into the video. I believe that you are someone that has the potential to really make a big difference in the world by embodying your true energy. Now, if you want a meditation that will help you to connect to these parallel incarnations, or to activate what is called your third eye, as you are decreasing the amount of duality reaction from the brain, you allow yourself to sync up into a higher level of consciousness. And there's a meditation I have on opening the third eye that I think is very powerful, that will help you do just that. Go ahead and watch that video right here.